Please take this opportunity to silence your cell phones. We will begin momentarily. Please welcome Staff Product Designer at Slack, Katie Chen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Chen, and I'm the Staff Product Designer here at Slack. I'm so excited to share with you what my team and I have been working on this past year with Blockit, the UI component library for our platform that makes it easier for developers like yourself to build rich user experiences. Now first, some housekeeping. We'll be having Q&A at the end, so feel free to submit your questions on slido.com. Just enter the event code Spec 2019 and select the room plan, and we'll get to your questions at the end. Let's get started by recapping a few highlights from yesterday's keynote. We introduced the Slack App Toolkit, the happy path for building engaging apps on Slack. Now first, there's granular permissions, a new way to handle permissions where you only request the scopes you need to function. We announced updates to Blockit with the addition of many highly requested components, such as multi-select, input, and radios. Next, Blockit now extends to two brand new surfaces, modals and App Home. These new interactive surfaces will enable you to build rich end-to-end experiences, enabling apps to go beyond just messages. And lastly, we announced actions, simple shortcuts for your user to trigger and complete an action with your app from many more places in Slack. Now today, we're going to focus on how to approach the user-facing elements of these app toolkit, specifically how you can use Blockit in combination with the surfaces that are now available. And here's what you can expect in the next 40 minutes. I'll be sharing some best practices on how to approach designing apps. Then we'll walk through an end-to-end example of a workflow, deconstructing which blocks and surfaces to use. And after that, I'll invite a few of your fellow app developers on stage to talk about their Blockit learnings. And then we'll wrap it all up with some Q&A. Now, this year, we've been working really hard to open up more surfaces within Slack for Blockit to show up, to enable interactions between your app and end users. So let's get to know what each one of these are. First up, messages. Up until now, this has been the only surface area where Blockit is available. It's used for direct conversation interactions between your app and end users, and sometimes in channels. We recommend using messages for notifications, real-time updates, and prompt for users to take immediate action. Modals. This is one of the new surfaces we've launched, which we're in love with. It's like a more robust, interactive, ephemeral message. Who am I kidding? It's so much more. Now, modals enable a focused moment, an interaction outside of messaging. Use modals to show detailed information or guide users through a structured workflow, like filling out a form, completing a survey, or even booking a trip. Now, modals can show up anywhere in Slack, whether it's triggered through a / command or a Blockit button. Lastly, we have the Home tab within App Home, previously known as bot.dm. As in its name, it's the home for your app. This surface is a persistent space for users to reliably go to kick off an action or view information. Now, use Home when you want end users to get to an overview, like a dashboard or curated updates. And I highly encourage you to use this space to inspire action. And that's it for a recap of surfaces. Next, I want to share with you how I go about designing apps. Now, before you jump into coding or Blockit Builder, here's a checklist to help you hone in on what to build. First, identify your key value props. Many of you already have a web app. It's important. It's not always the case to replicate all your functionality into a Slack app. It's important before you start building that you are clear about your value props and how that connects with what Slack provides to make sure that the experience is efficient for your user. Number 2, every step should be purpose-driven. At every step, ask yourself, what do I need from the user to help them move forward? Is it more information? Do I need them to take an action on something? Having a clear purpose will enable your workflow to be clear, concise, and simple. Lastly, every surface is good for a specific use case. Now, we just went through it. Message for notifications, modals for focused deep work, home for a consistent experience where the users can reliably go back to. Now, if you are clear with your purpose, choosing the appropriate blocks and surfaces will be much easier. OK, I know you've been looking at a lot of text on slides, and that's completely unusual for a designer. Let's put everything I've just said into practice. Let's use an example. Imagine we're building an expense app. I have 2 key value props. One is to make the experience of filling out expenses and getting them approved efficient and easy. Second, I want to give managers the ability to keep up with the team's spending status. Here's the flow from getting an expense approved to seeing an overview. And as you can see, every step only has one purpose. Our end user's name is Julie, and today she's submitting an expense. Step 1, what do I need from Julie? Well, I need the receipt of that expense and the information around that particular transaction. So what should the experience be? Instead of slash commands or getting Julie to hop out of Slack, go to my web app, log in, click through some screens just to upload a receipt, I'm going to leverage the ability to upload files and images into Slack to trigger an expense report creation process. Once the image has been received, I can show her a message and ask her for more information. Now, to enable Julie to import more info, the new modal is perfect for this use case. Instead of her messaging and interacting and chatting with my bot, she can just type into a form. And here are the blocks I used to create this form. Modals match the offering of dialogue and so much more. Now, you can have up to 100 blocks, ranging from layouts to display information, images, static, dynamic selects, multi-select, and multi-step modals, if that's what you need to break up a really robust workflow. Next, approving the expense. I ask myself, what do I need from Julie's manager? Well, first, I need to get their attention. And then I need them to take action to at least look at this thing or to get it approved. A notification via message view is great for that. Here, I'm showing a quick summary about the expense for the manager to see. And let's break it down. This is how this summary is laid out. A section block to @mention Julie, so you can, when you hover over her name, you can see a bit of information about her. A context block for dates. That's what context blocks are great for. Section with image for details. Now, I love this block. It's such a simple block to have a branding moment, where you can express the type of data or show branded illustrations to help users identify the type of information, if that's confidential. Also, you stand out from a normal conversation if it was published in a channel. And most importantly, an action block, to make it clear there are some actions for the users to take. In this case, it's the manager. In this case, the manager wants to see more details. If the manager wants to see more details, they're looking for assurance. The experience should be distraction-free, so the modal is perfect for that. Pulling together the necessary blocks, I can provide a great layout to show all the details that Julie has taken the time to enter. And here, I've laid out the information in the order of hierarchy. Context block to highlight who and to show a face to the name. I use the same section with image block to maintain a sense of familiarity. So her manager can kind of skim this part and focus on other parts of the modal for perhaps the information they are looking for. An image block for the receipt itself. It's probably what the thing they're after. So clicking on it will show a full image in its full scale. Most importantly, again, an action block here to highlight that there are some actions we're expecting the manager to take. Once the expense has been approved, what should we do? Well, let's let Julie know so she can feel assured that her expenses have been approved and moved along nicely. I'm sure she would appreciate that and then ruffling through her emails for that update. Julie gets a notification that her expense has been approved from her phone. She can see that. And here you see the layout's pretty familiar, but it's on mobile. That's the great thing about BlockKit. You only build once, and we help you scale across iOS and Android, so you don't have to hire additional Android and iOS developers. So that's it for the workflow of submitting an expense and getting it approved. Pretty easy, right? Now, what about my other value prop of enabling managers to keep up to date with the team's expense? In this case, I want a consistent place for the manager to go to get a holistic view of the expenses and those pending approval, without needing to type or memorize any / commands. So what might that look like? Here it is. Ta-da! This is my app's home. It's an overview for the expense activities of a team. Here you can see how the team is spending and what the team is spending on. And by the looks of it, they need to take a little less Ubers. Now I can also see the expense that need my attention. And I can always click on Home to see this. No more / commands. Yep, you better believe it. This view is absolutely powered by BlockKit using the blocks that some of you are already familiar with. And there I go, again, using section with image to create a little bit of a branding moment for each expense type. It's underutilized, and as a designer, I feel the responsibility to tell you about it. OK, so that rounds out on how to build an app using the new surfaces and blocks. Now remember these 3 steps before you start coding next time. 1, know what your value props are. Okay? It's not about fitting all your functionality into the app. It's about what part of your functionality and how it matches the user's needs. 2, every step should have a purpose. Ask yourself, what do you need from the user to help them move forward? And 3, once you know your purpose, choosing the right surface and blocks should be much simpler. Now, I want to introduce to you Netali from Doodle, a service to help you find the best time to schedule meetings with clients, colleagues, and friends. She'll share with you how her team has translated the existing Doodle experience into a Slack app using BlockKit. After, Pete from Guru, a knowledge management system for the Mun company. He will come on stage to discuss how he's leveraged BlockKit to continuously iterate on an internal custom app used at Guru. So without further ado, let's put our hands together for Netali.
Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Netali Jakubovitz, and I'm a product manager at Doodle's Tel Aviv office. And together with teams across Europe and the US, we build scheduling tools to help busy professionals make meetings happen. Today, I want to share with you the process of how we built the Doodle bot, how we brought our web-based application into Slack and turned it into a full-grown bot. OK, this is that. So for over 10 years, Doodle's web-based scheduling tool has been used by hundreds of millions of busy professionals around the world. So it was only a matter of time until this tool would find its way into Slack, today's busy professionals' own natural habitat. And this motivation really materialized for us last year as we were getting continuously user feedback and customer requesting for this feature. Please bring us those Doodle time polls into our workspaces at Slack. And as I'm sure you folks can also attest to, when we were thinking about this, we were saying, integrating your product into another one is a delicate balancing act. Not only on the technical level, of course, but also on the user-facing interaction level. So as well, we were also saying to ourselves, when we do this, we want to make sure we were not just moving and communicating information from one application to another, but rather this should be an opportunity to rethink Doodle in this new context and turn it into a super tool. because the medium is the message, right? The way we send and receive information can sometimes be more important than the information itself. And the medium through which the message is experienced really shapes our perception of it. So we wanted to make sure that we were tapping into Slack's contextual awareness when we were rethinking Doodle a la Slack. And seeing that together with conversations and tools and channels and threads, it was really an exciting opportunity just to rethink how would that re-exist newly in Slack. So with that approach at the heart of our process, we started to distill what it really means, the Doodle scheduling experience, really stripping to its core what it is that our users were asking of us. And we were thinking, we're designing, we were not really sure until we came up with the concept and we understood what's really important for our users is that we keep a sense of familiarity from what they know and love for years and bring it into Slack in the same way, because it wouldn't matter if the experience would be enhanced and interactive if it would not keep that sense of something they know and love. But that's a challenge. And that's when we realized it's not an easy task. It's really not an obvious exercise to bring an interactive web UI into Slack and keep that common thread. It meant that we need to make sure our users recognize this in Slack and feel that the simplicity and effectiveness that Doodle has always been able to provide them remains intact. Okay, so what do I mean with that mental model? So users think they know how to interact within the product, within that system, based on that mental model that they have of it. So this is how they would predict their interactions and how they would basically use our product. And we needed to make sure it stays the same. And then I'm going to show you what it is, that mental model, the unique Doodle experience of scheduling meetings. So this is how you do it in Doodle. An event organizer creates an event, and then they put in the information of the meeting details, right? So the title, the location, the description. Then they decide on their guest list, and then when they get to the next phase, they pick out of a calendar view a few time options. Then, once all of that is ready and shared with the participants, everybody can vote, and then the organizer can easily see and decide with a visual, simple view what option is best, scheduling that meeting right there and then. Let's take a deeper look. These are the interactions we were trying to get into the Slack app we were building. This is what we didn't want to miss out on. We needed to make sure we stay true to. Okay, this is the first step. We're creating this poll, and we are guided through a multi-step wizard flow. Creating our event, we enter the title, the location, and the note. Second step over here, we type in some email addresses, deciding on our guests. When this is done, we get to the next step where we see our calendar. We choose some time options that could be potential for this meeting. Gonna give some options so everybody can vote and see what's convenient. And once this is shared, everybody can vote depending on their availabilities and preferences. So what makes this entire flow unique to Doodle and very special? Well, two things. One, when we are creating this event, we are guided through by step, and we can really focus on each and every task in each of the steps, deconstructed this flow. And then when we get to this view over here, it really plays on a social effect, as well as on the visual expressiveness on this table, where we can see exactly who voted on what is the trend, what's everybody gonna vote on. So we see here, for example, Captain Bryant, the VP of our organization, voted only on one option. Maybe we would make the effort to also vote on that option, and we see people start to vote on that, making the organizer's life very easy and make this meeting happen. The organizer, of course, can then see, and if they know Captain Bryant is not that important for that specific meeting, they can choose otherwise. So, with that in mind, how do we take all of that, the table, the grid, the visual expressiveness, and bring it into Slack? As you might have guessed, Block It really helped. So here I'm going to stop, and I'm going to ask you in the audience, who has already started to build with the Block It? OK, nice, nice. A lot of people, that's cool. So I hope I can share some of our team's experience about how we did that and how the Block It really introduced us with many great design elements that enabled an interactive view. So everything starts in the builder. This is where I plan the layouts of the interactions, of the views, of each and every flow, part of the flow for the user. So I played around with it, wanted to see what would fit best, what is the best visual hierarchy for these blocks to work together, maybe bring in the wizard itself into the Slack workspace. I would click on the left pane on the block, and that would jump in the middle. The JSON data would stack automatically on the right pane, and then in the middle, I see visually the preview of what's going to go down. The most important thing I always do is send it directly into our workspace to get a vivid understanding of the look and feel, how it would be with an interaction with users. This is where we used to test it with users, and this is where I usually changed my minds tons of times. But the great thing about this, I was easily able to do that, because all of this process didn't even get to the development side. All of this process was planned and iterated on, simple, quick, and cheap. So by the time this was thought through, iterated, and validated, and it got to the engineering team's desk, it had a visual to accompany it, it had the JSON data already, and ready to execute quickly. Can you imagine having to wait till the development team would develop this to production, only then to iterate on it, only then to test it? We iterated tons of times. OK, let's break it down block by block and see what we came up with. So this is how you create a poll today with the Doodle bot inside Slack. So we took into account the medium and the context, right? So what does it mean to schedule a meeting when you're working, you're in your routine, in your conversational workspace? So we decided to break down that wizard into one single view. And with the help of the divider and the context blocks, we were able to present a frame for each section instead of a step-by-step flow. Within those classified sections, we use the same blocks, the divider and the context, to outline the primary and secondary content. So the eye really knows where to go to look for the actions, informations, and guidelines, but what's there also just to support. So mixing up those blocks, bringing out those steps, it resulted really in a visually cognitive design elements that enable an interactive view. So let's look one by one how we did that. So first, this is the first step, we're creating the poll. With the contextually positioned button next to the greeting, we can say, you can edit your details here, and with the dialog pop-up, obviously it's easy to insert the details, and the poll is updated. With the overflow block, we positioned it right there on the right top, and here we're tapping into two familiar mental models, both of Slack's message actions, where we know we have more options, but this is also where the user will look for those primary account features on the website. So it also makes sense. It's referencing the entire session. So whenever a user would create or edit a poll, it will be there, serving as a navigational anchor. OK, next step, inviting our participants. So as I said, we really wanted to integrate the Doodle bot into the ecosystem in Slack of each and every team, where on the web, we can only invite participants via their email addresses, Right, we connect the account, we connect the contact book, but this is what we can do on the web. Inside Slack, of course, we can type that in. It would create the entity and would be added. But we can also now invite entire channels to a poll, and we create a personalized contact book for each and every user. Another favorite usage of ours of the context block, always providing the users with reassurance and feedback of what's going on. We decided who are the invitees. We close that menu. We see the 3 are selected. But before they're going to send out that invitation, they're probably going to refresh they're going to want to refresh their memory. And with the context block, it's there to give another layer of information, just in case you need it, always giving you that feedback and sense of control. Third part, and this is really groundbreaking for us as a scheduling company and all, we got to work with the date picker. So this was on our wish list since forever, but can you imagine just doing this without Blockit? This was a dream come true for us. And of course, inline blocks that show connection between the information and the call to action. So you see that X button over there looks innocent, right? But you cannot do that without the Blockit. So how would you remove that option from that view? When we were trying to iterate and work with attachments, that action was hidden under a menu. To really get to dynamic interactions, that was not possible before the Blockit. And then, once the poll is done and shared in a channel or in a DM, of course, via email to the outside world, we get to see this view. Again, the context blocks are our best friends. Here we mix them up with images. So you can see the profile pictures tapping into, again, the 2 mental models, both of Slack, where we see the people we talk to, we interact with, but also Doodles. We see the pictures, who voted on what, where is the trend going, and created kind of a progress bar component that helps the organizer and the participants see at a glance what's going on and where is the voting going to. So mental model kept. And in the end, this is what we did. Pivoted. So from a table view, a visual grid, we turned it into a linear one, but the one that really keeps the mental model of how users know and love to interact with Doodle polls. The one thing we were able to introduce in addition inside Slack is something that we cannot do on the web, is actionable notifications. So on the web, the way we communicate with our users to update them on comments and updates to the poll and the progress of the voting is via emails. This is how we can communicate with them. Inside Slack, we have a dynamically real-life updating message that takes on that information but keeps it disturbance-free. So this is what we did, and I want to share with you the key learnings for me and my team from building 100% on Blockit. First one is, as I said, we were already half through building this product when we were introduced to Blockit. And it was a turning point for us, because we realized our applications communicate with content. So it's key and crucial that this content is delivered with visual hierarchy in mind to keep it easy to consume and understand. Just see what we could come up with here with the attachments. The actions all hide behind those menus. We would use typing in on those menu bars in order to create another entity, to add or remove an option. It's not really clear, the eye is kind of confused, not knowing where to go, really overwhelming with information. Now, when we look at the Blockit version, everything's well aligned, everything makes sense. The connection is kept between the information and the call to action. You know what you can do. And the context blocks are there to guide you and add additional metadata, another layer of information and feedback. Next, Our goal for this product was to get to 1,000 teams working with Doodle on Slack in a month. And when we were building with the Blockit, working about this mental model, we really didn't know how it would be perceived by hundreds of millions of users who know Doodle. So I can just share with you, Blockit has been really a dream come true for us in the way we were able to interact with the users, and we got that feedback back. In 2 weeks from our launch, we hit our goal. And within 1 month, we got to 30,000 teams 30,000 teams around the world using Doodle on Slack. So you can only imagine today, more than 6 months after this launch, the Doodle bot is a very important part of the Doodle ecosystem. Ultimately, and this is really something we take from this whole journey, this really changed the way we work internally. Now, iterating and optimizing for usability and quality is kept at a very low cost. It's simple and easy, without even getting to the engineers. So the resource that is the most precious for us, the engineer's time, is focused and can really execute what we know we validated with users. So the message I really want to share with you today is we are the users of Blockit. It's up to us now to go play with it, go build with it, and come up with new norms, new ways of mixing and matching those blocks together, contacts with images, dividers and contacts, and then that inline action. We are here to reevaluate and study those blocks that keep coming up fresh and come up with creative new ways to interact with our users. So let's build. Thank you. And now I'm excited to call to the stage Pete from Guru, who will share with us how he worked with Blockit in their internal app.
Good job. Hi, my name is Pete Michel. I'm an architect at Guru. Guru is a knowledge management solution. We created Guru because we believe the knowledge you need to do your job should find you. Our product delivers the on-the-job knowledge you need when and where you need it, from sales pitches to support calls and everywhere in between. To do this, Guru needs to be everywhere you work, not another destination that you have to navigate to, taking you out of your workflow. We have a web application, browser extensions, mobile applications, integrations with applications like Salesforce, Zendesk, Gmail, and Intercom, even a VS Code plugin, and of course, a Slack application. We've dedicated a lot of time to making a first-class user experience for our users in Slack. As Slack has added functionality like Blockit and Actions, we've been able to make a richer user experience for our users. We take the same approach when developing internal tools at Guru. I want to tell you about how we built an internal application on Slack and how we were able to bring that same rich user experience to our internal employees. First, let's talk about the problem we needed to solve. Guru was founded about 6 years ago, and by late 2015, we had about 10 employees. Like many startups, we were trying to go fast with limited resources. Our internal sales and CS teams needed access to information about our customers and the ability to administer their accounts. At that time, I was the only backend developer on the team, and I developed a couple internal admin APIs to help solve this problem, but our sales and CS teams weren't comfortable using them. The natural reaction of an engineering team in this situation would be to build an internal web application to solve the problem. But we didn't want to divert our entire team to this and take it away from building new features for Guru. We were heavy Slack users, and the idea of applying the not another destination concept to this internal problem was very compelling. We would build our internal admin application on Slack because our team was already spending much of their day there. There are other compelling reasons to build on Slack, keeping our users in the workflow being the most important. Additionally, when you build on Slack, you get some things for free. For instance, you can leverage their built-in user authentication. You don't have to build that whole system out yourself. Another added benefit is having an application that works in the browser, on the desktop, and even on mobile without any extra effort on your part. Finally, you can rely on a steady stream of improvements from Slack. Since we've been building on Slack, they've released dialogues, actions, Blockit, and the recent modals and app home announcements. For these reasons and more, we decided to build on Slack, and it was time for the most important decision of any product: what to name it. Without thinking through the ramifications, I named this application PeteBot. With a narcissistic name and a creepy avatar, I was off to a good start. PeteBot began very simply with just a few actions, but over time, as we added more features to Guru, we needed to add more features to PeteBot, and more teams at Guru, from sales to CS and engineering to finance, needed to rely on Guru. With this growth, using PeteBot became more complicated, but we've been able to use new Slack features to simplify the user experience. I'd like to walk you through some examples of how PeteBot has changed over the years, showing you initial versions of PeteBot contrasted with refactorings that took advantage of these new Slack features. The initial version of PeteBot was a conversational bot. The user would enter a short 2 or 3 word phrase, and that would trigger PeteBot to prompt the user for more information and then perform an action. Here's what our help menu looked like before our first big refactoring. What started as a few functions quickly swelled to an unmanageable number. Imagine being a new user and coming to the screen and trying to figure out where to start. It just wasn't happening. To counteract this, we utilized BlockKit to consolidate our commands and to move actions to contextually relevant locations in our display. For instance, rather than have 8 commands that dealt with administering different aspects of a Guru team, we had a single / command to load information about the team, and then use BlockKit actions and overflow menus to help guide the user to the actions they can perform. In this team view, we have some basic information about a team in Guru. There are several different actions they can take, and we took the most common ones and put them as buttons across the bottom. When a user clicks on these buttons, we replace the view, but always offer them a back to team navigation option. Here, the user is viewing the collections on a team, going back to the team, and then viewing the permissions on a team. In the old PeteBot, this would require stringing together several commands and continually pasting in the team ID. At Guru, we have a free 30-day trial, and we occasionally have the need to extend that trial. A Guru employee can come here, see the trial expiration date, and use the overflow menu to put that action right next to the expiration date to extend the trial. Being able to put these actions near the information in the display has greatly reduced the number of questions that come up and the amount of training needed to use PeteBot. The BlockKit for App Home announcement from yesterday takes this ease of use to a new level. We built a home page for PeteBot that shows common actions to perform across the top. The user no longer needs to remember the / command syntax, and it can just simply click a button. Next, we display recent Guru teams and users that have been viewed. It's very common for a user to have to go back into a team they recently worked with, so this saves a lot of time for our employees. We've just scratched the surface with this new feature, and I'm excited to take it to the next level and apply it to our Guru Slack application as well. Going back to the trial extension workflow that we touched on earlier, in the old PeteBot, you'd initiate the command to extend a trial. The bot would prompt you for a team ID and a new expiration date. If you messed up the team ID or put the expiration date in the wrong format, you had to start all over again. With BlockKit and the new modals functionality, this workflow has become much simpler. You click on the action in the overflow menu next to the expiration date, and you're presented with a simple modal that gives you context about the action you're performing. We utilize BlockKit to put information on the top about the current trial expiration date, when the trial started, and how long it's been active. And we use a date picker input to choose the new expiration date. The user no longer has to worry about the format of the date, and they can use a date picker input that's very familiar. This greatly cuts down on errors, like a certain sales manager at Guru that was accidentally using 2018 as a year well into 2019. Finally, the workflow that's been the messiest has been the one where we enable features on a team. There are times when we have a new feature that we want to give to a team as early access or let them trial for a brief period. When we started this workflow, there were only a few feature flags, but over the years, the list of feature flags has grown extensive. Here, the user is triggering the enable feature workflow. PeteBot shows a list of all the features that are available, which we've blurred out here to protect our secret features, but you can see how massive the list is. It's extremely unusable in this form. When we applied BlockKit to this workflow, we're able to do a number of things to make it easier to work with. First, just having the different layout options and dividers in BlockKit helped to organize this list of features. Then, we're able to use a select menu to help choose the feature that's to be enabled, and an inline button for removing features. All these BlockKit components together help make this more of a familiar experience for the user, and it no longer feels like you're interacting with a bot, but more as a native web experience. When I rolled the new and improved PeteBot out to the team, the response was overwhelmingly positive. With an internal tool like this, you're looking for ways of helping your team do their job faster and with less friction. PeteBot's been able to do that from the start, but integrating new features like BlockKit has taken this to a new level and made a huge difference in ease of use and helped us scale as new features were added. I highly recommend that you develop internal tools on Slack. As I stated before, your team already spends a lot of time in Slack, and anything you do to keep them from having to switch back and forth between applications will help save them a lot of time. Some of the things that I've learned while working on PeteBot for the last 3 years is first, to start small and iterate. You don't need to have a grand vision. Start with a single function and get feedback. If you can make one function work more smoothly in an organization, you're already successful. Build off it from there. Next, take advantage of the new tools that Slack releases. You don't have to fully refactor your application to do this. For instance, you can apply Block-it to a single screen or workflow at a time. One thing that's very nice about how Slack releases these features is that they're all additive and work well together. Finally, don't name your app PeteBot, unless your name isn't Pete. It was cute when we were a 10-person company, but now there are new hires that meet PeteBot before they meet me, and it's extremely awkward. Also, it's a common occurrence for users to mistakenly DM me instead of PeteBot. I always do my best to respond as a bot would in the situation. Thank you.
Now, thanks, Pete and Natalie. I'm sure you have questions that popped up as you heard these amazing stories building with Block-it. So let's get to the Q&A. Now, feel free to go to Slido. It's still happening to submit your questions. So let's take a look at what's been submitted so far. OK. The first one is, which is highest voted, the blocks right now are pretty rigid. Section with image always has image on the right. Any plans for making it more flexible? Absolutely. I think a lot of you have asked for this. And like right now, we're laying down the foundations. We're also trying to figure out like how can we give the type of flexibility that you are all looking for at the same time to ensure that the experience isn't jarring, especially within like the message experience. So we're going to figure it out. Let's get a question from Doodle. Where is it? It's moving around. For Doodle, for adding participant section, how will it work? Wait. How will it work if organization is big and Slack allows only 100 elements? Searching is hard due to the 3-second rule.
Right. So we use a dynamic menu with key-by-key filtering. So you can type in the person you are looking to invite, or that channel, or that email address, and you'll find it quickly and easily, even if it's not on the top of the list.
OK. A question. Oh, yeah, this one. Is it possible to link people to the Home tab from the Message tab with a link or a button? So right now, you can kind of do it with a message ID like Deep Link, but we're trying to figure out a way to do that, handle that more smoothly. So stay in tune, like tell us, especially after the session. Let the team that's working on Block-it right in the back know about this so we can understand how urgent this question is. Doodle, what Block-it component did you use to add those thumbnails of users that have voted?
So we used context block together with the images, and it's really our proudest moment. Yeah, face piling, we love it.
Question here, can you give us a few examples of Slack apps using the new app home really well? So I would say Guru is one of them. We released this actually quite recently, and they've jumped on board quickly to build it. We're anticipating more people to like play with it and see what they can build. So stay in tuned. We're hoping to like share that learning and like what we see as it comes in. Let's see. Can you have custom home views specific to different users? Pete, can you help us answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So anytime a user navigates to the home view, you get an event basically saying that the app home was opened. And you can also push to that at any point in time. So you can push to that in the background without even being prompted, so that when they navigate there, it's already there. Or if someone goes there for the first time, you could give them an onboarding message or something like that.
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to add to that. That's part of why also we created App Home, so that like the view is unique to the user depending on like where they are. So for example, like an onboarding flow where they need to do additional authorizations or potentially submit more information, it is unique to that user. Um, any plans on adding a time pick a block? Yes, I think it's on the wall in the back, and definitely it's in our short midterm roadmap. I'm looking at Paige, the PM, on Blockhead here. Oh, this one's for Doodle. How do you track which actions people are doing via Slack?
So we trigger events and we send it into an analytics tool.
Oh, sorry, we lost a bit of audio for Natalie.
Okay.
Just hold on a second. Bear with us. Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
I think this question, everybody wants to hear it, so thank you.
Yeah, so we send events, we trigger events, and we send it into an analytics tool. So we use Amplitude, and this is where we track the interactions.
This question, I think it's regarding the example I showed. Where in Slack is the manager notified? Direct message from Expense app, message in app home. Yep, so it's in the message section of the app itself. So the new app home has 3 sections. The home tab, which is new, message tab will still be there just like today, and the about tab. So nothing has changed there, and you can send your notifications like that just in message view just like you do today. How should apps lay out different types of information in app home? For expenses, how to separate my own expenses via. So this is specific to the expense app, but I also want to pass these questions to developers about how would you do that? Making layout decisions.
I think one of the important things is this kind of like a blank canvas for you, so you can apply whatever you want to it, which is great. It's also maybe overwhelming, but for us, we like to put common actions across the top, and then maybe something beneath that that is relevant information that people want to have at their fingertips and just be able to go in there and quick access to it.
Natalie, do you have anything to add?
We haven't used the home tab yet, but definitely for us, the target would be to keep the automated dynamic content there that's gonna provide the feedback for things that you always want to look back to and have kind of the similar view. So yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I use a section block, and I bold it to make sure it stands out, and with a divider at the bottom, so I can clearly section out and use that kind of as a heading, so you can clearly separate out different sections that way. I've just been told we're over time, so oops, sorry. Okay, so thank you, Natalie and Pete, for sharing your story today, and thank you so much for everyone for the questions. Please check out the Blockit documentations and get a deep dive of everything you need. And please stop playing around with the Blockit builder where you can mix and match the blocks. Now, I really encourage you to go to the build workshop this afternoon or talk to the people that made Blockit amazing, which will be in the back here in the builder section. Especially you have voting or requests of blocks, we'd love to hear from you. So please come hang out with us after the session behind. So thank you, and happy building.